Welcome, sentient beings from all known universes and beyond. It's time to activate your cranial downlinks and prepare to receive a raft of discussion on a cosmic ocean of science fiction and fantasy topics, interviews with local area genre devotees, and insightful prognostication by our soothsayers of science fiction, our forecasters of fantasy, and any other beings that happen to get caught in our gravity well. This is the Galactic Driftwood Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Galactic Driftwood Podcast. I'm Bill.
I'm Linda.
I'm Charles.
I'm Seth.
I'm Chris.
And we got a few things to talk about today. It was kind of a bit of a busy week in sci-fi with some announcements by Disney and some other famous people that were talked about in the news. And I think maybe we'll turn it over to Chris here to talk about Disney's announcement regarding Gina Carano and her character, Cara Dune, that she plays on The Mandalorian.
Yeah, so we're going to rewind a few days here to an Instagram post made by Gina, where she's basically comparing conservatives in America basically to being Jewish during the Holocaust. And this isn't, she's got a track record of saying some silly things and stupid things, but she writes, Jews were beaten in the streets, not by Nazi soldiers, but by their neighbors, even by children. Because history is edited, most people today don't realize that to get to the point where Nazi soldiers could easily round up thousands of Jews, the government first made their own neighbors hate them simply for being Jews. How is that any different from hating someone for their political views? And not shortly after that, Disney decided that was enough.
That was the final straw.
Yeah, that was the final straw. And I will preface this by saying this isn't her first run-in with issues like this and things that she's posted. This has been going on for months. So my viewpoint on it is, we can draw parallels to other actors all we want, like her co-star Pedro, but ultimately at the end of the day, she hasn't shown really any empathy, any remorse, any attempt to apologize for things that she said. And she's basically set herself up for this to happen. No one should be surprised that this happened.
No. It seems like she tends to double down more than anything.
She does double down, and I think Disney gave her enough rope, and she decided to hang herself with it. Mm-hmm. And that's her call. You can't feel sorry for her. You can't blame really Disney for that. Disney has to draw a line somewhere. And I think when people are taking what she says and say, well, okay, so it's not okay for Gina to say this and keep her job, but Pedro can say something else and similar, but nowhere near the same context to keep his job. But I think the difference from what I've seen is that Pedro has shown that he's looked back and said, you know what, that was a mistake. I shouldn't have said that. And he's apologized about it. He doesn't double down. Mm-hmm. He says, you're right. We've discussed this and we've looked at it and I was wrong. And we'll even remove the post. Whereas Gina will just start racking it up. She will stack it up and say like, no, I'm going to hold my ground. And you know what? That's her prerogative. She can do what she wants. But ultimately, this isn't about freedom of speech. Don't lose your mind about that. It's not about, you can say whatever you want. This is about having consequences for your actions. And it works like this at any job.
Right.
Right. And taking responsibility for your
it's taking
actions.
Responsibility. And she, her responsibility for this is that she can no longer work for Disney. Disney won't stand for that. It's common sense to that degree. It's nothing to do with free speech.
And I think in fairness to Disney, most businesses would be like that. I know the company I work for, if I were to go out on social media and say a bunch of anti-Semitic things or things that were offensive to trans people or the LGBTQ community, there would be repercussions for me for my job. So, it's you have free speech in this country. You can go out and say what you want, but that doesn't mean your businesses have to go along with it or keep you employed because of you doing it.
Now, I will go ahead, Seth.
Well, I was just going to say, like, more along those lines. And Bill, you aren't effectively a representative for your company, for a brand that is kind of become central to a whole, like, larger brand within that company.
Yeah. Right.
So
if you're gonna be the face, it comes with some responsibilities there when you're representing that business. I'll also throw in there that I don't agree with some previous pressure that some of these actors get from outside influences where, they want them to make a statement on something where they've historically not said anything publicly about. I don't agree with that. This isn't like she should have a certain view because it's the right thing. This is, she said something she shouldn't have said.
Sure.
I don't agree with we talk about in her stance, she's trying to defend conservatives and that conservatives are being, thrown under their bus or whatever for things that they believe in or whatever. But at the same time, you have people on the left that are pushing people to say, you need to agree with me and I need you to come out and publicly say so. And that's not good either. That's horrible. And I have seen a little bit of that online as well. And I will admit, Gina's been a victim of that to some extent as well. So it goes a little bit both ways. However, again, she has shown a reoccurring pattern over the last few months that she's not going to change her behavior. And I think Disney's in their mind is this isn't something we can really sustain or keep having to deal with, especially from a PR perspective. And Disney's basically, where she aligns with doesn't fit their standards or anything like that. There's no future for her there.
Right.
So why even bother to keep holding on to it or dragging it out? Just be done with it and cut it off.
Yeah, and there is also a big difference between conservative views and specific views that are overall very harmful, as we've come to see, such as mask denialism and promoting the election conspiracy theory.
So I again, I think she was given plenty of rope, right? With the things that she's continued to say, and then I think this should come of no surprise. I don't agree at all that this is part of cancel culture or any of that nonsense. She had her opportunities to correct this, and she should have known better. If she held those views, that's fine. She shouldn't have used her platform to kind of broadcast that out. And again, this doesn't come back to free speech. This comes back to you are a big, role in the face of Disney. Mm-hmm. There are people that look up to you, and Disney won't stand by someone who's pushing those views out that they don't necessarily align with. And that's their prerogative. That's their decision. And I stand by them on that.
In the same way that Twitter or Facebook shouldn't be forced to carry anybody's comments.
Right. We've seen that shift even more recently with this past election season and incitements of violence that broke out into some horrible things that happened at our Capitol. And Twitter and Facebook and a bunch of social medias basically said, like, we can't be a part of this. And so they have to drop those people. There's no other choice. And that's not cancel culture either.
There's probably something stopping this, but frankly, I'm a little surprised Disney didn't have a no politics clause in their contracts with everybody anyhow.
They might.
I 100% guarantee you it's in the fine lines of the contract somewhere. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, they're probably fairly loose on things that can be said. Hence, again, Gina's been afforded a pretty long rope here.
But there's kids. No, I get it. But it seems I don't know. If you're on a show that, and it probably wasn't their intent with The Mandalorian, because I think it became more family oriented than they'd expected. But I have a little bit of the opinion that if you're on a family oriented show, you keep the politics out of it. But
that's hard. It comes down to the directors and things like that.
Well, it's hard. I mean, I don't know, but I just it's not good for business anyway to be either side. Be pointing out to the 7-year-old that your father's wrong about all his views in life.
Now,
Aha.
if we want to, there should probably be a comparison here between Gina Carano and Mark Hamill. I mean,
Yes.
both of whom are very vocally active on social media.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think the big difference, though, is that while Mark Hamill loves to dunk on Trump and such, he's not coming out and saying the harmful things like masks don't work or we're basically Jews during the Holocaust.
Right.
Yeah, I
Like,
think
that one seems over the line to me.
yeah,
Like,
there's a line there, and I think I struggle with drawing parallel lines when something happens to an actor and everybody says, well, what about this person or what about that person?
Yeah.
We can draw parallel lines all day for a lot of different things, but when we do that, we stop focusing on the person in question, right? We stop focusing on why did this happen? How did we get here? And how do we move forward from here? If we stop and we don't talk about what Gina said, why it resulted in what it did, and we start talking about, and I agree, Seth, we can draw these parallels, but I personally struggle with it because we can talk about Mark Hamill, we can talk about Pedro's comments in the past, and if we do that, I think it doesn't stop at, well, Mark Hamill said this. It as you mentioned, there's differences in what has been said historically. There's more context there, right?
Mhm.
Mark Hamill hasn't blatantly put out what we know not to be false.
Right.
He puts out facts, and while he may be harsh towards one person or another, it's for a particular reason and what have you. But it's not something that's really someone should be fired for. I don't like someone, I'm going to be public about it, right?
Mhm.
It's not a, the conservatives are being persecuted just like Jews. It's not, election fraud is real and the election was rigged. It's none of that nonsense. So if people can understand that and actually just talk about what Gina posted, what her track record is, I think it's stupid. At the end of the day, it was stupid.
And when you mentioned Pablo a minute ago, we're talking about the Mandalorian himself, right? The actor that plays him, who has said something controversial in the past, but has been remorseful about that, apologized for it, removed the tweet, right? So it's different in that, unlike Gina Carano, Pedro Pascal is not doubling down on the things that he says.
He's grown.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is huge.
So
meanwhile, Gina Carano is going on to produce, develop, and star in her own project with The Daily Wire, which is gonna be
interesting.
Hot piece of garbage. Let's just call it.
It's gonna be hot flaming garbage, is what it is.
It will be, but there's. To them, it's them. I hate to use the word them. For conservatives that support Gina, it's a message that you can't cancel us, right? It's a message that I don't need you, Disney. And realistically, the reality that those people supporting her need to grasp is Disney doesn't need you.
Right.
Right.
Or you're not going to be a blip on. You're nothing but a blip on Disney stock.
Right.
It's not going to change what happens with Mandalorian in the future. It's not going to change the Star Wars universe. They don't need you, and they can afford to drop you because of your views. And that's just the reality of it. And they need to understand that this isn't a time to double down, come out with a show, and then push. Presumably, I'm just going to make an assumption here, poorly or not. Come out with a show that's just going to double down on all the crappy things that we said before.
Right.
No.
Well, it's too bad that politics and racism's involved here, because I think it would be fun to have a really, really angry sci-fi reviewer.
Oh my God.
Review her new movie?
No, not review her movie, but somebody that's been outed.
And
just hates everybody now. We need more of that. Yeah.
Yeah, because we don't have enough of that.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
just for movie reviews and such.
So we should probably then jump into some of the things going on with Joss Whedon recently then as well.
Mhm.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
It's been a rough week for Joss Whedon,
it has been.
Yeah.
and
Seth,
I'm
you want
not
to
saying that
take us into that?
sympathetically. So this the whole Joss Whedon came kind of back into the news this week because Charisma Carpenter, who have you guys seen Buffy or Angel?
Yep.
That's right.
I've seen an episode or two, so I'm familiar with the franchise.
Yeah, that
Charisma
was in my
Carpenter,
time.
Charisma Carpenter played one of the main characters on both Buffy and on Angel, and she kind like if you kind of followed it, you kind of knew like when Angel hit her, like she had some rough stuff going on, and in I believe the 4th season of Angel, she got pregnant in real life, and that became like part of the show. And she like gives birth to more or less the big villain of the season, which, you know, looking back on it, is very on brand for Joss.
Mm.
And she dies, like, and he wrote her out. And so what's kind of starting to come out is that this was on brand for Joss in a number of ways, and this was all started because who's the actor of Cyborg in
Oh.
Justice League? I am bad with names, and I should have had this queued up.
No, I am too. Ray Fisher. Raymond Fisher.
I think that is right. So he accused Joss of unprofessional behavior and a few other things, and his accusations started an investigation of Joss Whedon by Paramount or Warner Brothers,
turning over stones that nobody wanted to see.
and now that has been joined on with Charisma Carpenter, added her voice, as did Sarah Michelle Gellar, who is the star of Buffy.
And Michelle Trachtenberg.
Yep, who was Buffy's sister, Dawn.
And so just to kind of clarify a little bit what's going on here. So his behavior is it's not sexual, is my understanding. It's
abusive.
What?
Michelle Trachtenberg went on record saying that she was not allowed to be in a room alone with Joss Whedon.
Oh, really?
That part was pretty creepy. That was more telling than a lot of things, especially for then. That was kind of a rule.
Wow. Okay, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, that's more recent news. Last couple days maybe, but yeah, that's been a thing.
Is that the cast of Buffy there or Angel?
Buffy.
Okay. Huh.
So, I mean, this is getting around. Like, there's been no cancel of Joss yet, but this is kind of coming around to, like, how do you enjoy media and separate that from the creators when they were being awful? Like, I mean, I still love Buffy and Angel. The knowledge that Joss Whedon and Firefly, but the knowledge that Joss Whedon was probably being a bit of a creeper behind the scenes is kind of takes away from that. But
yeah, and there's another large popular franchise, Harry Potter. People struggle with J.K. Rowling.
Oh yeah,
true. Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, I feel like this happens more than we would want to think about.
Yeah. So,
I mean, it's. Sorry, Chris, go ahead.
No, I'm just trying to, like, I don't know how to deal with that. Like, do you just cut it off and just not think about the person who's making the content that you enjoy? Or is, you know,
Well, I mean,
writer.
it's kind of a similar tack with J.R.R. Tolkien, right, in Lord of the Rings.
Mhm.
He it was kind of a racist thing too for him, and but I still love Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit and all of that kind of stuff. So I think you can feel bad about the person that's doing these things, but still like the programs
What they've created.
what they've created. Yeah, because and again, keep in mind that he's got a part in creating this, but it's more than just him doing it. It's
Yeah.
the actors and the writers and the
Yep.
everybody else that's contributing to the production of that effort. So to take all of that down because of the actions of one person, I think is not good. I think you just have to hold that one person
Accountable. Right.
and in your mind and going forward as to whether or not this is the kind of person you want to do business with, type of thing.
Yeah, like should Joss Whedon get his positions of authority going forward without acknowledging the harm that he's caused,
Right.
or allegedly caused?
Right.
Yep.
And I don't know what his track record is or response has been to any of this as of late. So this has all just been kind of trickling out. So I don't know if he's just lying low right now, but I haven't personally seen a lot of response from him yet.
Yeah, I haven't read any response yet either. So
there's supposedly, his whole response has been through lawyers, and that's been no response.
That doesn't look good. Yeah, if you can't publicly come out and at least acknowledge what is widely throw away some of the nuanced well, not throw them away, but cast aside momentarily some of the nuanced specifics that people bring, especially from the Buffy set. But if you can't speak to what seems to be largely acknowledged as abusive relationships and just gross behavior or just abusive behavior, if you could speak to that, that's one thing. But if you can't speak to that and has to speak through lawyers, that it doesn't look good. But again, that's I don't want to fall into the trap, as I mentioned earlier in the show, of forcing people to come out to say something.
Right.
If they frankly don't want to. So it speaks for itself. If he has to speak through lawyers, then let the industry do what it does, and they'll decide what projects they do and don't work with him on, as well as the actors.
But I mean, I think it's very important in Hollywood anyway for people who are directors and hold these positions of authority to be held to a high standard, because as we saw, Ray Fisher, I think got part of his thing is he might have gotten dropped from a movie because he came forward, and it's these guys are powerful, and if they have the power of your career in their hand, they can abuse that power.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I've seen that with several directors.
I suspect it's hard to get that momentum in Hollywood because there's a lack of sympathy for Hollywood stars, right?
Yeah.
They can fend for themselves, kind of thing. You don't need the public's help. You made X amount of dollars on such and such movie. It's hard to feel bad that you got dropped from your next film because of whatever. And I struggle with that, but at the same time, people need to understand that they're employees too.
Well, they're people.
For a company, and they can be taken advantage of, and we've seen that time and time again.
The other part of it, that's once you've made it, right? I mean,
yeah, that's true. Right.
He was holding power over people who hadn't made it yet.
Yes.
Well, even when you've made it, you're vulnerable to that. I mean, look at what happened with Brendan Fraser.
Yeah.
It was he was at the height of his career, and he was sexually abused and still didn't have the power he needed to fight back, and so he became a recluse for a decade.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now take it from another.
Bill, you're muted.
Oh,
sorry, Wanda.
Take it from another perspective. Here's a guy. All right, so we were going to talk about Cass Anvar. We actually met him at Wizard World Comic-Con in Madison. a few years back. I think it was the first year that the
Expanse.
show, the Expanse took off, and there was like hardly anybody at his booth. Nobody really knew who they were. We didn't know the Expanse was going to be so great, but Bill and I, we really liked it, so we went up, shook his hand. Nicest guy, nicest guy. Didn't come across as anybody who had power go to his head, and yet something happened when the show became popular and
Changed him, apparently.
Yeah.
For worse.
yeah, depressing.
That day.
He was really a nice guy.
I mean, people are more than just like their one view or their one mistake. And I mean, for a while, like Joss's reputation was that of the guy who he was like the big feminist for quite a while.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
his famous quote or famous response, like when a reporter asked him, "Well, why do you do these female-centric projects and have these powerful you tell these?" And he's like, "Because you keep asking this question." I like that. That was his reputation for so long, but then like finding out that he wasn't practicing it, he might not have been practicing what he preaches. That's
Yeah.
it's like a lot of us loved Joss just because, but I mean, yeah, you kind of look back at Buffy and Angel, and you see that a lot of the female characters get really beaten up in that, whereas the male characters are not treated in the same way.
You go back 20 years, and the culture was different.
Yeah, and I think
I've made the mistake of, or not necessarily mistake, but
Buffy's closer to 30 years now.
Oh my God.
but there's quite a few old movies. There's old movies that I've wanted kids I know to watch, because in my mind they were good kids shows, and I've pre-watched them and went, oh my God, I can't. This isn't good for a college kid now.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
What's that?
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, I think with respect to the actors and whether or not they're top tier actors or just getting started, I think regardless of who you are, you deserve certain workplace protections, and
Yeah.
be irrelevant as to what your what level you've reached in your career as to whether or not you're entitled to those protections or not. And if you don't get them, those people that violate that should be held accountable for it. So
agreed.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always a bigger fish.
There is.
You're
Right.
never, I don't think you're ever so big that there can't be someone who can take advantage of you.
Right. Right.
Well, no, but there might be. I think I might be of the opinion that there is a certain size where you are supposed to fight it. With some of these, I mean, that might be what's happening here with some of this.
Oh, you mean when you reach a certain level of prominence, you have more ability to go public with what's happened?
Yeah, because if you're just a regular person,
yeah, it's hard to.
I mean, you can be destroyed pretty easy. But
Sure.
If you're just going to lose a few movie gigs and you're still
Right.
momentarily fine,
Right.
it probably is time to speak out.
Yeah. If you're,
I think the Me Too movement made a big difference. Sorry,
Yeah.
Ron.
And no, that's okay. And if you're, a popular actor, you've probably got a huge following on social media. So when you make a statement about what's going on, it has a far wider distribution, right? And
Which,
and people take notice.
Which kind of brings us back to Gina Carano.
Right. Right.
Yes.
So once you get that
You're
megaphone,
absolutely
maybe don't use it to say that you're like a Jew during the Holocaust.
Right. Right.
Don't do that. That one move, maybe.
right.
Okay. Well, listen, we should probably talk about some news this week. It was really, really exciting for me. And that was to see that Rebecca Romijn and Ethan Peck are in Toronto. starting now. And supposedly they are going to be very quickly start rehearsing for the new Star Trek series, Strange New Worlds. And
That is a baby-faced Spock.
Yeah, it is.
I know. He's a
little bit.
youngin.
Yeah,
he looked
He's a
he looked
youngin'.
much older with the beard,
he did.
but
Yeah.
but then he didn't have a beard in the original series, so at some point he would have had to shave it off. Because only the mirror universe Spock
they completely changed up how Klingons looked. So
yeah, but they
I'm
did that.
still on that.
Yeah.
Still on it.
Wow. Drop it. Leave it.
Nope, gotta ride that horse all over town.
Yeah, that was kind of a poor decision the way they did the Klingons in Discovery. I wasn't a fan of that either.
No, going outside in my kilt when it's -8 degrees outside, that's a poor decision. Doing what they did to Klingons at the beginning of Discovery was something else entirely.
Now, the way you say that Seth, leads me to believe that you have gone out in your kilt in this weather.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the implication.
Right.
That's a bold move.
That is a bold move.
One I instantly regret.
Or a stupid move. I'm not sure which.
It was not
Okay,
the
does he
brightest
look-
thing I've done recently.
Does he look older
he
in
does.
this one? Does
I
this
know.
help?
Yeah. So there's different pictures, and the ones that make him look younger, I'm struggling with. But this one actually looks more appropriate, I guess.
I do not like that font.
That font is pretty awful.
Well, you can blame this
Yeah,
nice
'cause-
Trek art down here.
Yeah, whoever
You're
put
the artist
this
and you're watching
together
this,
was
that font.
not
It's not okay.
No.
sorry to Guzami art, Trek art.
But while we're on the topic,
We don't
of
diss
this,
anybody on the show.
What show have you been listening to, Linda?
Well, John was not here today, so I
I
thought.
thought we could stay positive.
Yeah.
While we're on the subject of Strange New Worlds, it's supposedly going to have a different format. Instead of what we've kind of grown accustomed to now in this modern streaming era, is series that have a season-long arc.
Yeah.
Because obviously you don't have to worry about catching a show on a specific date that it's released and then not have access to it anymore. So in the past, when you would do series, you pretty much had to do the story of the week. Otherwise, if a viewer missed an episode, they had no way to go back and get it. But now with streaming, on-demand streaming, you can watch all your stuff at any time that suits you. So typically now we see a lot more season-long arc type shows, at least in the Star Trek genre. And with Strange New Worlds, though, they're kind of going back to the original series style of storytelling, where it's an episode of the week, Monster of the Week, Planet of the Week, or whatever. And I know, Chris, you mentioned you had some thoughts on that. And
Yeah. So for me, I enjoyed the shift when we went into a lot of streaming for series. The series were shorter, but you had a better overall written story. So instead of 20, 30, whatever episodes, you're in your 8 to somewhere less than 20, but you had a really stretched out story arc that was really, really good. I'm optimistic with Strange New Worlds. If they have a lot of episodes to tell a lot of different stories, it gives a lot of opportunity to kind of just, you can have different directors or producers for each episode that kind of have a certain way of how they write the story or something they wanted to see happen. There's a lot of opportunity there, and you can deviate from not just having to follow this one arc. But I don't want to see something like that if it's going to be a short series, a short season. To me, I'd rather see a larger story arc.
Yeah, I was just reading something about that very subject a couple of days ago, and I was discussing the fact that a lot of series now, like whether you talk about The Mandalorian, or you talk about some of the Star Trek series that are out now, or what else? The Expanse. they have shorter seasons because the production quality and production values are so much higher now with HD that there's a much bigger investment from a studio perspective in the cost of each episode. And so in order to mitigate that expense, they do fewer episodes at a much greater quality. And my impression is that we're probably going to see the same thing with Strange New Worlds, in that they're going to maintain that high quality that we've come to expect from, Star Trek Discovery or Star Trek Picard or whatever. And that as a result, because of the expense involved, that it's probably similarly going to be a shorter season.
And I would argue for lowering that production quality for a longer series, because what we don't see anymore is you don't have any long running series like DS9 or the Next Generation or Voyager for that matter, where the production quality wasn't as high. Right. But you had a really long story to tell. So, and that's, I guess that's kind of the thing. If they plan on doing a short one for Strange New Worlds, I'd rather have an overarching thing. But if I would also at the same time like to see a longer running series, and maybe it's just easier these days to do short ones. That way they can change direction easier. Or decide whether or not they're going to continue it or something like that. So
do you think though that we've already gotten so used to the high production values that to step it down would be...
I do wonder about that, because I do enjoy it. I finally just started watching Picard, and I was actually extremely impressed with the production value of it.
Right.
It was higher than I expected.
Mm-hmm.
It was phenomenal, and you're right. I think mentally I set that as the new baseline.
Right.
If you're going to make another Star Trek series, I want it at this level because it's awesome.
Yeah, well, and that I think is the problem, is that these new shows, the production values are so high and they're so good, and yet you have such a short season that when it just goes by so fast, and then you've got to wait another year for it to come back, and it's just agonizing because you really want to watch it more. So
I struggle with that on other shows, not just some of the sci-fi things, but I'm a big fan of serial killer type shows, detective type shows and things like that. But I grew up on more Law and Order, right? But then now Netflix and all these other TV shows have these murder mysteries that are like 10, 12 episodes, but they're so well done.
Yeah.
The production quality is so high. But I feel sad when I have that gap. I have to wait 9 months for the next.
Right.
So have you given up? Do you think you've given up on a show because of production value? Because I don't. Yeah. I think when you're watching a show,
on if it's
a Krull.
Oh yeah.
Krull had lots of problems.
You lost that to the end. I know it.
We did, but let's face it, the production values back then were pretty low.
Yeah. So, but I mean, now we're kind of in a day when you can get really high-looking production values without spending a whole lot. This
is true.
There are kids on YouTube who are doing things that would have blown people's mind years ago.
I don't think that's a game changer for me anyway. What it would be is, because I have gone back, I'm trying to think of some, sci-fi is the same, but like if I go back and try to watch the Rockford Files now, the sound on it's just agonizing the way they do sound
picture
effects.
Quality is agonizing.
Well, it is, because it'll be loud and soft, and it's not
even the
consistent.
Next Gen. And if you watch it on what we were watching it on before, Bill,
well,
it was everything was like blurry, and it's like, this is horrible.
It's kind of different whether they preserve the original format, or they try to blow it up to full screen.
Right.
Yeah, you can get some really bad crops, and Disney's actually struggled with that a little bit. Since they're rolling in their entire library, they've had some older shows where they will just present it as 4:3 because the only other edition that they have is a really crappy cropped edition of a show. So a mixed bag, I think.
Yeah, I think I'd personally rather watch it 4:3 ratio rather than have them try to blow it up into a bad crop, and it's blown up so that it's even more pixelated than it was back in the 4:3 ratio era. You know.
Yeah. Babylon 5 just came out with their remaster, and that's up on HBO Max now.
Oh yeah.
Have you watched it?
I've watched some of it, and it looks good.
Yeah.
And they've kept the original, like on the, like when they were filming it is when they were making the jump from 4:3 to
Okay, that's right.
recording in the larger screen. So a lot of the episodes they did keep that aspect ratio. But they remastered it and upped the resolution.
Right.
And of course, don't look for that show on CBS All Access because it's not anymore.
Yeah, CBS All Access is going away. Well, I say going away. They're transforming into Paramount Plus, where they will have full access to all of the Paramount Studios movies, as well as all of the CBS series. So, and I think the thing that's really nice about that for me is seeing all of Star Trek, the movies, the TV shows, and everything now all under one umbrella. And I think they're starting to do it right in the way that they're creating this Star Trek universe now. So I think with
the Star Trek expanded universe, cinematic universe.
Well, I mean, look, we've got Discovery and Picard that are already out there. Strange New Worlds is starting filming, so CBS / Paramount will have potentially 3 Star Trek live action Star Trek series running at the same time.
None of which are happening after.
Can we talk about how bad these commercials were during the Super Bowl?
Oh my God, I love these commercials. I loved every single one.
I did love this one.
I thought
when they get to the
they were comically bad, but
yes, I think they were supposed to be comically bad. So they're climbing the Paramount Mountain, and at the top, here's Colbert making martinis.
First Patrick Stewart.
I thought it was pretty hilarious.
I loved him.
So yeah, that was for those that didn't see it. That was a shot of one of the Super Bowl ads in which CBS or Paramount Plus announced their new streaming service starting in March. So if you already have CBS All Access, you'll automatically be Paramount Plus in March. And if not, if you haven't subscribed yet and you're a new subscriber, they're going to give you half price for a year. I think for the first year, 50%
about $30
off
for a year.
Wait, so since I'm on there now, I can't have half price for a full year?
I think if you call them, you might be able to negotiate something.
Either that or you just go off and rejoin, so.
Rejoin, cancel your account, rejoin as Katie.
There you go.
Yeah.
Lay sigh.
I know. Yeah, exactly. There are ways of
So what do we think will happen with obviously the pandemic changed a lot for movie theaters. You've got, AMC, which was going bankrupt and, stonks to the moon, and now they've gotten out of their debt, that whole craziness.
Sure.
And, does someone buy AMC going forward to put their movies in? Does Paramount start to release simultaneously on their platform as well as in the theater going forward? What do we think is going to happen? Because I don't think it's going to go back to the way it was.
I don't either.
They've all had to pivot in the last year.
I think with HBO Max doing that, releasing simultaneously on theaters and on streaming, the other services are going to have to follow suit if they're going to be competitive. And I think the cat's out of the bag in that respect now, which I think is good because, the way I do it is if there's a huge blockbuster movie, like maybe it's a new Star Wars film or something like that, I'm going to go see that in the theater.
Same here.
But, after I see it in the theater, I'm going to come home and maybe 2 days later, I might want to watch it streaming just to say, okay, let me watch it again and pick up all the little things that I missed.
Yeah.
So what that will translate into is them like seeing smaller box offices. So that would kind of relate to the big
Well,
box office
potentially
movie
that revenue
going away.
that box office will shrink, but they're
Yeah.
picking up subscribers at the same time, so they do have a constant flow of revenue regardless.
Well, I'm
And
just saying, yeah, we won't see the big, oh, this is the biggest movie ever kind of thing, like where the
I think
old,
that's fair. Yeah.
it used to be who could knock what movie off of that #1 box office weekend throne.
Well, or they're gonna start doing it like what was that movie Clue, where they you have a different ending if you watch it at home.
Oh, that would be a good thing.
That would actually be pretty interesting. Yeah, different experience for that.
Unless, like, I could see that going bad though, as if one was a bad or worse experience than the other. So like, you got the bad ending to Clue if you watch it on the streaming, but if you want to see the good ending, go see it in the theater.
Yeah. Well, I think it'll force. So like for me, growing up, it was always just the experience and the big screen and stuff like that. I think if theaters need to continue to change and grow for what they've done. I mean, we have the Alamo out here in Omaha and a few other places around the nation, and they've really changed with the experiences. I'd like to see more of that. So for me, I continue to go to the movies, even though I watch a lot of stuff at home now. I continue to go because it would be like a dinner date night out or something. I can have somebody make my dinner, and I can sit there and I can eat it, and I can watch it, and that's great for me. And I don't see that going away. And I think there's plenty of people out there that are still like that still will go see the movie in the theater. I do think theaters. I'm going to guess that we're going to see the likes of Disney or Amazon start buying up these theater companies, because if you think about it, that completely gives them control of that entire space. Yeah. Right. They have streaming on any other device, and they have the theater, and they basically completes their portfolio of how to get their content out.
They control that whole distribution ecosystem.
Yep.
But then that doesn't translate into quality for us, though.
Potentially not, and that's a challenge. That's why I bring it up. Is like what happens to the future with that, knowing that some of them are going to have to make that play.
Yeah. So Disney buys up Alamo, and like the experience there changes, which is bad. But then maybe they only showed the new Justice League movie on one screen, while the competing Avengers movie is on 6.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It'll be interesting. I don't know if it's ultimately good for us in the long run. It's good for them, potentially. Yeah, it's going to be crazy, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see what gets released in theaters continuing going forward versus on screen, or like was mentioned with clearly alternate endings presented, or the extended version of a movie being shown in the theater and the shorter version being shown, on streaming services until X date or something like that. Yeah. Or we'll see like the delayed releases where it's available in theaters for the first 30 days or something like that, or for the first week or two. If you want to see it first, you got to go to the theater, and then it'll be available on streaming or something. So I don't know. I will still go to the theater.
I'm seeing somebody finally pairing my meal with the movie.
Sort of like picking the wine to go with your dinner.
Yeah. So if it's so I don't know. Sci-fi is a little hard to pair, I think, but
it works. Alamo does it with their drinks.
Yeah, Alamo's got special drinks for every movie. Okay, well, they have themed starters as opposed to ads before. I love Alamo.
Yeah, Alamo's great.
It's been a while.
The drinks are too expensive. I have to throw that out there. They are just expensive. But
like the beers aren't any more expensive than
the beers aren't, but the specialized drinks that they have.
Hell yeah,
but I mean, what are you going to do? I go there for that experience at the end of the day. That's why I'm there, and I will happily pay that.
I haven't been to Alamo in a year now. I wish I could go there and just like do the whole dinner and a movie thing.
Yeah, same here.
They've got a good mac and cheese there.
They do.
Now I'm hungry for mac and cheese.
We got a band talking about food this close to the lunch hour on our show.
It's been a year since this guy looked like this.
Hey, you know what? I don't see any gray hair on that head.
been more than a year since.
And
It's
that
been
was
way
like
more than a year since I looked like that.
that was like what? That was like 2 years ago.
That was closer to 3, probably. Where was
I
that?
I think COVID did it to him.
Wow.
No.
How we've changed.
When it happens fast.
Apparently.
So I see. Tell me
Yeah,
about
I was
it.
gonna say you guys are throwing an awful lot of stones for living in your glass house.
Well, Bill has looked like he looks now for a long time.
Yeah, I've been gray since I was 20. His marriage.
Incidentally, right after he met me.
I'm surprised that Linda's the one who points this out.
For my family, I might have another 10 years at best.
Yeah.
Got a little bit of gray that pops up now, but in my family, right around 40, 45 or whatever, they start to go completely gray. And it's like an overnight thing.
Yeah.
See, there's Bill.
I went much faster than the rest of my family did, but
That's because of the rest of your family.
it probably is. Yeah. So let's see what else is going on. The Expanse. We haven't talked about the Expanse, the ending of that. Linda and I haven't seen the final episode yet, but I think Chris and you guys have, right? And have you, Seth?
I have only seen the first 3 episodes of the latest season.
So were you guys happy with the ending? I think Chris, you had mentioned.
Yeah, I was happy with the ending. It sets up nice for the next season. The battle between Mars and the Belters and Earth is not quite over yet. If anything, it's just beginning. Obviously, the Expanse in this season saw some new technology with hiding weapons, which caused some pretty significant attacks on Earth. And the way the series ends is that's not over. They touch on it early on. And then there's some attempts to rescue one of the other crew members. Naomi gets stranded on a ship.
Yeah.
And in that, are we doing spoilers?
Yeah, we can
Go ahead.
In that rescue attempt, unfortunately, Alex gives all he has as the pilot. And during a significantly hard burn, he strokes out, which is a thing that can happen in this world, in this universe of the Expanse, when you do these hard burns. But he does it being the quote unquote brave idiot, as Naomi calls him. And it was for the right reasons. He did what he did to save a member of his crew. And unfortunately, it cost him stroking out on a final hard burn to get to her in time to save her. And we touched on why Alex is exiting that show a little bit early on. But that's the big loss for the season. Like every season so far is going to have like that one character you're kind of attached to. And I think they kind of set up for it early on. There was a lot of, personal things that they were dealing with every character in this season of The Expanse. And ultimately, it was almost like at the first couple episodes, you knew somebody had to die.
Yeah.
Well,
and is next season the last seation, I think?
I think so.
I think so. And it sets the stage for what's going to happen there. What's her name? Avasarala? Yeah. She rises to the top in this season, back to a position of power. And she means well. I don't know how well she's going to do, but she does give kind of a speech near the end. There's a scene where you kind of think it's going to wrap up here, and they're talking. Everyone's gotten back from their hard mission, right? And they're all sitting around, they're having drinks. There's a nice little welcome back party or whatever. Everyone kind of was successful in some manner in their mission. And she stands up and looks around the room and basically is like, this is our future. This is how we beat the terrorist, if you will, is by combining, bringing together Belters, Martians, and, people from Earth to be able to sit all in the same room and have a good time and commingle and love one another. And then shit hits the fan at the very end, and you realize that, like, yeah, this is going to be an uphill battle against them, and the fight's not over yet. That's my take on it. It was very good season, and I enjoyed it, but it was pretty suspenseful. Really, really suspenseful. They gave you like maybe a 10-minute break
Wow.
Abbas
Right.
Wow.
is one of my favorite characters.
Yeah,
like,
she
throughout
is
the
good.
whole show.
Me too.
Just
Yeah.
because she's been so complex.
Mhm.
Mhm.
She's been that mover and shaker behind the scenes. She was the president for a while, but didn't do well at it.
Yep.
She's there's very good characters throughout the whole thing. And like that's one of the reasons I love The Expanse so much is because they all have their flaws and they play so well into
Mhm.
it plays so well into what they do and why they do it.
Mhm.
So let me ask you this, Seth. What did you think of her taking back her right-hand military advisor guy after he stabs her in the back?
Is that later on in the season?
Yeah, I think it's a little, yeah, it is a little bit later on in the season.
Then I
He
wouldn't
does
know.
something, it basically stabs her in the back, and when she rises back to power, she returns back to him. Her excuse or her reasoning for doing so, because he even looks at her like, hey, she advised against taking a certain action, and he went ahead and did it anyways.
Mhm.
And it definitely pissed her off. And ultimately, after all was said and done, after some other events unfold, she rises back to power and she comes back to his office and is like, "Hey, I need you at my side still." And he's like, "Why would you do that?" Because, I just stabbed you in the back.
That is Avasarala's character, though. She
Yes.
is
Mhm.
incredibly practical.
That made perfect sense to me, even honestly, because when he was in charge there, when they went through that period where everybody was a yes man, right? And she
Yep.
rebels.
Yeah.
Like
And I think that was part of her excuse. She said she needed someone that would not necessarily contradict her, but to be the other side of the coin, if you will, to give her that tough advice or make some of those hard calls.
Yeah, you need somebody to argue with you if you're going to be a good leader. I mean, you just
Right.
I still don't agree with the decision that he made or what he was trying to do. It was definitely the wrong call, but
Plus, isn't it a
happened.
good idea to have your enemies close instead of
Keep your friends close and your enemies
keep your friends
closer.
close and your enemies
Expanse
closer?
was an enemy at that point to me, from my viewpoint,
Yeah.
for doing what he did, which cost other people their lives. And it was basically a retaliation move. They had a military retaliation decision to make.
Yeah.
And she said it wasn't the right one to make. And, those people that they're going to retaliate against are practically innocents in a war. And he was like, well, we got to send a message. And she was like, that's not the message to send.
Right.
So he did it anyways. And that really, as you can imagine, jaded her. But she still went back to him at the end. And likely, larger part of it is to the point is she trusts him. Regardless of the decision he made, I think she still trusts him at the end of the day. So,
well, if she thinks that she needs him, she's very practical and she will use whatever tools she has.
Yeah. If anything, he's a tool that's definitely effective. So
Even if she doesn't like him, she'll use him.
Is it that guy sitting next to her?
no, it's I always blank on his name.
Yeah, I can't.
Because he was the one that was a.
I don't
Always
remember him
against her.
exactly myself now.
Yeah, that's what made me think it was an enemy.
Yeah, there was a really good part in one of it was just kind of a throwaway thing in one of the first couple episodes that I saw, but when the reporter was kidnapped and Holden finds something she left behind and he just presses the button and activates it and the guy's like, is this just what you do?
Yeah.
Press buttons? What? This is me. It's Holden
Yeah, that's what I
presses
do.
the goddamn button all the time. Ooh, it's a shiny switch.
Right. Bear with me.
No,
I can't blame him there.
Yeah. But I think her move was definitely in character, and I think it. I think even in real life that would have made sense, so to speak. You want to have somebody that speaks against you in your panel.
Well, most leaders do.
Yeah.
There is one I can think of that
There are
doesn't.
some who don't.
Yeah. Well, right. But otherwise, that's what you become.
Right. Yeah.
There.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing it. We've kind of been distracted with a lot of other stuff that we've been watching lately, and we're watching that series The Alienist. Has anyone seen that?
That's the new one, right?
Yeah, it takes
The guy from
place in like
Firefly?
1896, and so an alienist is
Oh, I love it.
someone that deals with mental
no.
disorders,
A
and so
psychologist is
it's
what
it's
we
a
would
murder
call them
mystery,
today.
and so it's pretty interesting.
It's good.
Yeah,
No,
you're
I
not
haven't seen that one.
watching-
There was another one though. I was just thinking of with the guy from Firefly. A new show that he's in.
Yeah, Alan Tudyk,
Yes,
Resident Alien.
Resident Alien. Thank you. I got to start that one. That one looks like it's going to be good.
Now,
Yes.
which streaming service is that on?
Isn't this awful? Now, where do I get
It's
to watch
sci-fi, so
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah, it is
know.
sci-fi.
Okay, so we'll have to
But-
wait for that to drop on Netflix or something.
yeah, you guys need to watch WandaVision.
Yes.
that? Oh, yeah.
So tell us what's going on there, Seth. Give us kind of the broad strokes of that.
All right, so spoilers. I've already spoiled you guys, but warning
Sure.
for anyone else. So WandaVision starts off is Disney's it's going to be serving as the bridge between phase 3 and phase 4 of whatever's happening next in the Marvel universe. And in Infinity War, Vision died, got the Mind Stone ripped out of his head, and then Thanos snapped. And so the last we saw of Vision, he was dead. And the last we saw of Wanda, she had survived. She'd survived Endgame and was mourning. And so WandaVision starts off with a 1950s style sitcom with Wanda and Vision having this, or both being there, and Vision is alive. And
Sort of like a Dick Van Dyke style 50s.
Yeah, Dick Van Dyke
sitcom.
style 50s thing.
Horrible.
And so Vision's there, Wanda's there. Neither of them seem to know how they got there or have any real memories prior to being there.
Mm-hmm.
So weird.
And so every episode, the show's style progresses another decade. But as you go, you're seeing these little glimpses that's definitely something's off. But what's off? You'll see in the black and white episodes, there'll be certain things that have color in them, like blood. And there'll be all these little hints, like on the picture that Linda's got up right now. You can kind of see this little logo on that toy, the toy helicopter.
Mm-hmm.
And Wanda will hear. Yep, Wanda will hear things through the radio, and it isn't until like the 4th episode where they take you out. Like certain characters in the shows will act off and be like not fit in with the aesthetic of the episode or not really be getting it. But it isn't until the 4th episode that you find out kind of what's going on, what's really going on, in that there has been a hex established around this town. That inside is this alternate reality. And and
the people that are inside the alternate reality don't realize it.
Okay. Don't know if I want to spoil that for you since you haven't seen it.
All right.
Because even I don't know what's going on with that yet. We
Right.
don't really. We know there's something going on. We know Wanda's doing it somehow. Maybe not. There are still a lot of questions up in the air. Like every time they answer something, there's 3 more things. But outside this hex, this town has basically gone missing. People's memories have been rewritten as to the existence of the town.
Huh.
And there's the organization SWORD, SWORD, is looking into it. And like they've had a character, Monica Rambeau, who we last saw in Captain Marvel. She was the daughter of Captain Marvel's friend, Air Force friend, and all grown up now. But she went into and out of the Hex, and so something about her has changed. And let's see, but the big thing is that in the 5th episode, I believe, Pietro Quicksilver comes back into the show, and he died in Age of Ultron, but when he comes back into the show, the actor who plays him is the guy who did Quicksilver from Days of the Future Past in the Fox X-Men movies. So
you think this is going to be a bridge then between the Marvel universe and the X-Men universe?
I think this is where we're going to see that bridge start to happen, because we know the next couple big movies have to deal with the multiverse. Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. And the next Spider-Man movie is supposed to be a multiverse gig as well. So there's been some speculation that Wanda is the villain in Multiverse of Madness. And there's definitely comics. There's all sorts of comics lore that's tied to this that they're bringing in. Like in WandaVision, she has a pair of twins, and that happens back in the comics. And in the comics, she loses those twins. Like her and Vision, they lose those twins, and that fractures her mind to the point where they basically remove all memory of the twins from her. And then much like a couple decades later, she remembers those, and they cause a full breakdown in Wanda, and she creates an entirely new alternate reality and changes pretty much everything.
So what is her power exactly?
That is ill-defined, which is part of the problem with the show.
Okay.
Like there's not the problem with the show, but the problems presented in the show, because what they're seeing is far, far beyond what she has shown that she can do before. But they also mentioned, hey, she went toe-to-toe with Thanos and probably would have killed him if he hadn't have bombarded the area. Like she could have one-manned Thanos.
Fair, yeah.
And so they don't know what she's capable of, and that's part of the problem. Is you don't even in the show, even Wanda doesn't know at the beginning that she's responsible for any of this.
Right.
Like she's in there, but as the show goes on, she's like almost gaining some control over things.
Okay.
And then in the most recent episode, she displays a lot of power. So we still don't know
what her limits are.
Was she capable of? Has she been manipulated into this? Are there other things at play? Is she going full villain? Is she having a mental breakdown?
Gotcha. Well, we'll have to go back and check it out, because Linda and I watched the first 2 episodes, but then in my mind it was just like, there wasn't a long point to the whole thing. It was like almost like
sometimes you got to keep on pushing.
Yeah, it was like an individual Dick Van Dyke style show, only with superheroes
with the laugh tracks,
but still had
laugh
tracks.
I'm looking at Wikipedia here.
Yeah,
and it said the critical response: the first 2 episodes were good. 3rd and 4th were dropped quite a bit, and the 5th comes up.
Yeah, I was saying that earlier on that reviews about heading into 3 could have been because of the first 2, where people were just kind of done with it. But it is rebounding from what I've heard. So it's something. Give it time, I guess.
Right.
I don't know why. Like in the first 2 episodes, there's just a ton of stuff to pick out. Like if you're watching it, Like it's all about the like in
Maybe
the
it's
first
just
two
the
episodes,
style that
it's
people
all
haven't
about like
adjusted to.
setting that tone of what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
like
I don't
maybe
know,
if
it's
you're
just
like
like-
watching it going, oh, this is just its own kind of thing where they're just gonna
Yes.
go through the but
Yeah.
no, it's all in the first two episodes, it's all about the hints that they're dropping.
Okay.
Like
I
when they
can't get
break
past the laugh
character.
track.
On
Yeah,
the
I
Can't get
didn't-
past
hints,
the laugh
the
track.
I
one, the
didn't
one
pick
thing I
that
keep
up,
seeing a
but-
lot of, which again I haven't watched it myself, but a couple guys at work in our weekly chat or whatever, they brought up, hey, pay attention to the ads that they're airing on the television and things like
Oh.
that. They say there's a lot of things that they're dropping in there to pay attention to in each episode that's painting
Oh.
a pretty interesting
Interesting.
picture, I guess. So, including things on Stark and some other events that can be pulled from some of the other movies. So that's another thing I've been told, that they're dropping all these Easter eggs, all these little things everywhere. So I haven't watched yet, but to Seth's point, there's so much that they're throwing in there. I guess it's easy to be distracted by the laugh tracks and the style of the filming and everything like that.
Yeah, it's just like I'm not.
I guess I
watching
don't
this.
understand that per se, but if it's one of those things where you have to watch it to the end, then I guess it is what it is.
I think it's a one-shot deal, I'm pretty sure. Like you don't know, like however it's going to end, it's going to shake stuff up in the Marvel universe.
Oh.
Mhm.
And this is the first time that Disney's actually done like the TV series affecting the movies going forward.
Yeah.
But I think this is going to be the inciting incident for Phase 4.
And
Like we're
do you
going to
know
see
what's
new characters.
happening? Do you know what's supposed to happen in Phase 4?
Well, we know we've got the slate of movies. Like I said, we've got Multiverse of Madness, the new Spider-Man, Love and Thunder. Like they aren't all going to be related to this, but it's going to be like what starts things off.
I see.
So I missed whether this was canceled or still going, but what about, you mentioned that this is going to be the first time they're using like a TV show to kind of shape the direction of that. What happened with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was marginal, would reflect what was going on in the movies, but no one from the movies ever acknowledged anything from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, I thought so. For me, that's interesting because then now they have this WandaVision where it's all being kind of acknowledged and they're shaping things going forward. And I just kind of, I personally, for what people hoped Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. would ultimately tie in better or do more with that, especially with the popularity behind Coulson. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm kind of disappointed to not see that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. maybe wasn't used to leverage that as kind of a springboard to change direction on things. But it is what it is. They were already probably too far into it.
And I think Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is done now. Like they had their last season.
Yeah, that's I burned out on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. probably 3/4 of the way through. I think started getting a little weird.
Yeah, I think Disney decided to, like, once they had Fox back, I think they might have decided to just like cut the Inhumans angle from that. And that's how they were trying to basically get mutants into the MCU, was through the Inhumans.
And it just didn't pan out.
But now that they've got the X-Men back, it's a whole lot better for them to get the X-Men in somehow. And I'm guessing that this is like now that we've seen like Quicksilver from those X-Men movies.
Right.
So
It's starting to all come together.
Yeah, that's our first big hint that this is a multiverse thing, because in the show, they make it a big point to establish that Wanda cannot create matter, but she can rearrange it basically however she wants. But so it's like she can't just create a person whole cloth.
But if she sees a person, she could rearrange them.
She can basically control their mind.
I see.
But the guy who plays Quicksilver, like there's no person in this town for her to have done this. Where the hell did he come from? So she couldn't have created him.
Right.
He's not her dead brother. but he does like have the speed powers, and like we don't know if she can just confer powers yet.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
So like there's so much going on, and it's my favorite thing right now.
So how many more episodes in the season?
I do not know. If I had to guess, I'd say it's a 10 episode season.
It's like they're showing 8 right now, but I don't know if that's the final count.
Okay. So they ought to be near about the end, right?
Yeah, things are heating up really fast.
All right. Well, we'll have to jump back in and give it another shot. Try to get past.
It looks like 8 episodes, so there's 2 left.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll check it out, and then maybe we can talk about the finale in a couple of weeks.
We really should.
All right.
Oh, good.
Sound good. We'll watch it. All right. Well, we should probably wrap it up. I think we've been going for about our usual amount of time here. So
yeah, that was a good coverage.
That was a good discussion. A lot of good things we talked about. So, well, thank you guys again for joining and talking about what's going on in the sci-fi, horror, and superhero universe. Very interesting. And we will look forward to seeing everybody again in 2 weeks, and we'll have some more interesting discussion then, I'm sure. Who knows what'll happen by then, right?
Hopefully good things.
Hopefully good things. Right. So thank you all for watching, and we will see you in 2 weeks. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Galactic Driftwood Podcast. For more information and past episodes, please visit our website at galacticdriftwood.space or subscribe to us on YouTube. And now, please deactivate your cranial downlinks, collect your towels, and be sure to watch your step as you exit our gravity well.